Yeah, welcome. Stephen Taylor, amazing. Love the story. New York Post. It's kind of exciting. Maybe not the way you wanted to be on there, but it's national news.
You know, I would be lying if I said I didn't see it coming. I kind of knew as soon as all of this stuff started to happen that I was like, yeah, this is kind of ridiculous. And I think I can play it up enough to where people will hear about it. So I was definitely stoked whenever I saw it actually working out. Like the New York Post getting Donkey of the Day is something I never thought I would see in my life.
Wait, what's Donkey? Is that part of the New York Post? Or
No, Donkey of the Day is on the Breakfast Club. It's like the number one hip hop morning show in the country.
oh,
And they give somebody just kind of like, the donkey of the day. And, just somebody that made a decision or whatever. Usually it's a celebrity. And they said that I was. And it boosted all of my numbers a lot, but it was definitely kind of
yeah.
surreal to see.
That's what I was going to ask you. How much did this boost your numbers? Because I know your TikTok's at like 20,000. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, that was overnight. I mean, I've always just kind of sat around 1,000 and had never really posted anything. And then just kind of with this, it's definitely gone up. Everything's just kind of gone up across the board. Like I've had people at shows now that are coming out specifically to see me, and I'm on the road like 24/7 already. That was why teaching was already so tough. So, um, I've been seeing people at shows, just kind of trying to stay steady on the social media stuff. And just kind of trust the process, I guess.
Have you had any big name comedians or bigger comedians reach out to you and be like, hey, I want to have you as an opener, I want to help you out, or like shared your story or anything?
I've had like people share the stories for sure. Whether they were using it as like fodder to like talk about, or whether they were like, hey, I know this dude, he's good, like you should check him out. I haven't, it doesn't like nobody's going to take me on the road because of a good story, but I've definitely had a lot more
solid too. I mean, I've watched the videos, I've watched your stand up and the TikToks. I mean, you're a solid comedian.
Oh yeah, no. My stand up is the thing that I'm most, that's what I pride myself on. The TikTok stuff is just to supplement that. Like,
Sure.
but people just, unless they know, they know. It's all about the comedians that I've worked with so far and that this is going to help me work with in the future. And just being able to go out and do stuff on my own and be able to headline my own stuff, and actually have people come out for that. Like that's the dream. That's what you want, is just like, oh, people are interested in you. And that's been working out.
Oh, that's good. Okay. So yeah, I saw you have some tour dates and stuff. I'm in Arizona. I would definitely come see you if you come this way.
Yeah, are you up in Phoenix? Are you in where you
Near Phoenix, Scottsdale. Yeah, but I mean, there's a bunch of comedy clubs here. I can send you just if you want after.
Yeah, definitely. And it always helps if people, that are watching and are interested, reach out to those clubs and say, hey, there's this guy, I got this interesting story. Cause I go on the tour with teachers, I go by myself, but I also have like a couple teacher buddies of mine who are out of Denver and just really funny comedians. They're big on their own right. And we tour with that too. So, we've been able to like market it. And the reason that I was able to kind of plant my foot in the ground so hard with the school district is because I had a feeling like I was going to be able to make something out of it. And so far that's working. It's not like I've made it out of it, but it's momentum. And in this business, that feels like everything. So I'm at least holding on to it and just like, it's just trying to be hopeful and stick to the work.
No, absolutely. So is that more your dream? Obviously, because I mean, you made the choice to go with the stand up over because if they'd said if you delete the videos, you could have followed those orders and then you might still be teaching, right?
No, I mean, I deleted the videos. Like once they deleted it, what I said was, give me a second. Like, let me look through this. Let me talk with somebody. I'm not just deleting them because you're telling me to delete them. Like I'm going to get feedback, talk to my union. And then I deleted them before they went in to fire me. I gave them a heads up. Hey, you know what? I'll take them down. I didn't like delete them off the face of the internet, but for all intents and purposes, like they were gone. And they just still went, they knew the same thing that I knew, which was that this was going to be a problem in the future too. If they were taking fart jokes seriously, then wait until they see what my stand up is, and that fart joke is just like, those are me making my first 2 videos ever about teaching. Like, it's pretty run of the mill, not very innovative, not like the funniest thing in the world. It's not like I would do that on stage, but for TikTok, it definitely works. And I think they knew that if that was like me at my first, that it was only going to keep growing from there and that it was going to be a problem. So, I mean, yeah, I put my foot down and I said, I don't want to delete the videos. And if you think it was really everything I did was kind of a challenge to see how the district felt, because I knew that, it was my guess was it was going to be an issue in the future. And I didn't want to get put on paid leave in December again because I put up one of my stand up jokes and they were like, what the hell is this? You can't talk about this stuff. And it's like, yeah, I've been doing it for 6 years, 8 years at that, like, I don't know. I think that it was worth it to put my foot down, but also like it wasn't a willfulness to just be like, "Oh, I'm not gonna listen to you." It was like, "Oh, if you want me to delete videos that I made on school grounds, I can make a promise to you that I'll never make another video in the classroom. But I can't promise you that I'm gonna stop making content about teaching or that I'm gonna like uh be more professional, that I was gonna like put on a face on TikTok and be a, wholesome, saintly, angelic teacher who is just great at his jobs and loves his kids and only has perfect interactions with parents." It was like they didn't want jokes, and since it had been vaguely associated, since it had been brought to their attention, they didn't want to be made to feel like a joke. And
Okay. So what law did you break, or is it just a school policy, or is it because I know you said they got you on a technicality because you made this video about farting and there was pictures on the wall of student thank you notes. And so they said that violated the FERPA, which for people who don't know, who don't work in education, it stands for Family Educational Rights Privacy Act. So it's like you're putting the kids' names on something that and making it public, and that's how they got you to that's what rule that they said you broke, right?
yeah, it's mostly it. So like that's the thing that they're holding on to like legally that they were trying to say, which is really a tough line to hold, if you know anything about FERPA, like that's not a very names is not really enough. Most of them are just first names, maybe a last initial. And most of them were students that had already graduated. So like I don't even like you would have really had to do some digging to like find anything. And they're, what FERPA's for is for like posting students. Like if I was making TikTok videos with my kids in them, if I was using them as content, that's a FERPA violation. I
Right.
was just using the backdrop of my classroom, which just so happened to have thank you notes.
Right,
And
because then how is that if that's violating FERPA, then those things shouldn't even be allowed on the wall because then other kids could come in or other parents that come in or the custodian comes in and then they see it. Is that not violating their rights?
exactly, it would be the same as having like classwork up in the hallway. Like, oh, they wouldn't be able to see the sign your name on the back. Oh no, I can't put it up there. Yeah, it was kind of a ridiculous thing, but they do also have a school board or a policy that says you have to be professional in all matters of communication with students, staff, or families. And their argument would be because it was a public facing social media, being that anybody could access it. And what I was saying was not necessarily deemed professional. In one video, I said ass. Okay. They said that also violated the board policy. And that's why I was like, dude, if we're here, if this is the issue, this is never going away. Like, if you are asking me legitimately how many times I've farted on a kid or how many times have I lied to a kid, if you're taking these obvious jokes very seriously, then you honestly wait until you see my stand up. Like, it's so much more adult, so much less, school professional, whatever, that it was like, yeah, this is going to be an issue forever now that they know.
Right. But so you were able to do the stand up and teach, you said for 6 years?
Yeah, I was a stand-up before I was a teacher. When I went, every interview I did as a teacher, they would say, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" And I would say, "Not here." I wanted to let them know. This is not
Yeah.
my dream. You'll get the best teacher. Like, I honestly believe that I am a better teacher giving, what I was giving, which was like, I felt like I was giving 80% to teaching and 80% to comedy, which was kind of like killing me. I felt like I was burning the candle at both ends. But even at 80%, I felt like I was a better teacher than most. Like, I really felt like I was doing good work there. And the students, I think, have shown that in response to everything that's happened. So I'm like proud of that work that I did. But I would tell, in the interview, I'd say, look, I will be pursuing stand up with every single ounce of my body, but I'm also going to be a really good teacher and you'll never have to doubt it. And like all of my admin, they would like the first principal I ever had, as soon as all of this stuff started happening, called me and was like, let me know when you want a job. Let me know when you want to come back. Like, I've always been very confident that if anything push came to shove, like, people would see that I was a good teacher and that I wasn't out here, just fucking using people for content and, just making money off of, just using it as like a stream of income that really didn't matter. Like, I care. There are a lot of teachers who don't care. I wouldn't say a lot. I think that's a bad frame, but I think there's a decent percentage of teachers who, are just kind of in it and over it and going through the motions. And I wasn't one of those, but yeah, it's weird being out of it now, but I'm still happy that it's all happened.
Yeah, I mean, well, I worked in education for 17 years, so I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a I don't know the exact numbers, but there's a large percentage of teachers that I don't know if they wouldn't I would say they don't care, but they don't care as much as they should. 80% I would have killed for a lot of those teachers to have 80%. There was a lot of teachers that I mean, they were probably given 20%. I mean, they were doing the bare minimum. I mean, think how many teachers they call in sick all the time, they miss meetings, they're the ones that leave at like exactly at 2:20, like the bell rings and the kids leave and they're out of there. And they still kept their job. And see, that's what's so backwards to me because you were saying that your whole thing was getting the students' attendance and engagement up, and you succeeded with that. And to me, that's what makes a successful teacher. I don't care if you make fart jokes or you do stand up or I mean, I guess OnlyFans, I don't know, that's a different ball game altogether. But I mean, fart jokes, come on, is that where we're gonna let teachers go? It's crazy.
I feel like we live in a world now where beggars can't be choosers. And when you get something good, you hold on to it and you check the redeeming qualities, right? Like, not everything is all good, not everything is all bad. I'm going to come with baggage when I'm at your job, right? You might have to deal with answering, hey, he said some crazy shit on stage and we heard it and we don't like it. You might have to answer those questions. But at the end of the day, those kids are getting a good education and that they're locked in and that they look forward to coming to class and that they would be devastated if they lost that teacher. Right. And then there are other teachers who, like, they're not doing anything. They're not really helping us out at all. You know, their redeeming quality is they bring good food to the potluck. And you're like, all right, well, yeah, we can maybe coach them up a little bit. But like, I was one of those teachers that called in. I would have to call in because I was on tour, and I would be out. But I also made sure that I had a sub plan that was like solid and that the students knew that if things went haywire while I was gone, that it was not going to be like fun, that it wasn't going to be easy going. So I think it's just we don't have the ability to measure teachers because the standards are so low, because the pay is so low, and there's no real benefits to anything that you do. And teachers now are like cops. Like, it's like you don't even have to have a college degree. You can just kind of volunteer for a little while and then, we'll pay you. Like, they until they get the system figured out. Like, I feel bad for teachers that are still in it because social media is not going away. Side hustles aren't going away. The fact that people are doing OnlyFans shows that, one, there are people out there, there are teachers that are just human beings that are into whatever they're into. And if you want to go behind a paywall and find that, whatever, I'm still going to be your teacher. Right. Like, I think we got to get rid of this idea that teachers are angelic creatures sent from God to do the Lord's work. It's like they're just let them know that they're an average human. And I mean, I think you're people got to make money how they want to make money, and they're going to do what they want to do. And as long as they're doing a good job in the classroom, I don't care what happens outside of the classroom. But I think you're right. If you've got people who stink and are in the classroom, I would much rather see them get tossed than somebody who does OnlyFans but is getting students to engage with Hamlet on a deeper level. Like,
Right. Well, and that's one thing, like, it's so interesting when you're a kid, you think of your teachers as these kind of goody two shoes, like, don't break any rules, don't drink, don't smoke, don't do any drugs, don't have sex. You know, you just think of them as these like almost like a nun or something or a priest. And it's like, then you get into education and you're behind closed doors and you hear the teachers swearing and drinking and talking about sex. And I mean, they're just humans. I mean, yeah, not every teacher's like that. Some teachers are you know, church going or whatever. But I mean, there's a lot of teachers that are, it would surprise you. I mean, I remember like teachers smoking pot and stuff. I was like, wow, this is great. And this is before it was legal. I mean, this is crazy. But I mean, it's like, yeah, why do we hold the teachers to this higher standard for lower pay? It doesn't really make sense.
well, it's a judgment thing, right? People like to be holier than thou, and they're saying, if I'm paying your taxes, I expect you to behave this way. Right. And it's like, well, do you behave this way? Like my taxes go to you and your roads. Do you behave in this perfect way? Yeah, I think there's like teaching has become political for sure in the past like 30 years. Um, God, even since the 60s. Anyway, I was,
Right.
but
But
I
what if the
think,
teacher is smoking a bong and doing jello shots or whatever in their bikini or something, which I think this happened to a girl on spring break or something in a bikini and she was drinking or something. Drinking's legal. I mean, now weed is legal in Arizona and most states. I mean, so then what do you draw the line? And again, your thing too, it's like you didn't really break any laws. I mean, yeah, this FERPA technicality is kind of BS, but I mean, yeah, if people aren't breaking the law, I don't know.
what's the worst thing that happens? When that teacher comes back to school, what's the worst thing that happens? She gets caught smoking a bong in a bikini on spring break, uh, doing jello shots. What's like worst case scenario when she gets back to the school?
I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of too from the kids' perspective because they
Yeah.
definitely look at her differently. But maybe
In
they'll think she's cooler now. I don't know.
they might think she's cooler, but she is going to have to wear that publicly. We don't live in a private world anymore.
Right.
Everything you do is public. So when she comes back, she's got one of two options. And either way, she's a human being. She's got to handle it like you would at any fucking job, you know. If I saw my manager doing that and I was you know, I worked for some charity organization giving water to people in Africa and I saw my manager getting lit up and hammered, you know, I might have different levels of respect or admiration for her, but then it's her job to address that, you know, to use it as a teachable moment to be like, yeah, this is why you should think about your actions and who you're around and where you're doing it. And if you're going to party, you should party in a safe way and you shouldn't be doing what I was doing. Or they could say, like, yeah, you know what? This job is really stressful and you wear me out sometimes and I don't make any money. And, you know what? I just had a good time and it got caught on camera and that sucks. And sometimes you make mistakes in life. And no
Right.
matter what, the kids are going to leave that situation going, oh, well, that's somebody I can relate to now. Yeah, I didn't have any teachers I related to in high school, barely any. The only ones were the ones that let me see behind the facade, you know, the ones who were like, yeah, this is like I'm not saying you got to cuss in front of your kids. I'm not saying you got to party.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, if you do, who cares? The kids don't care. And at the end of the day, I'm in it for the students and what's good for them. And if they, you know, I think you go to the students, you have a full council of everybody's students, and you go, should they be canned? Ask the admin. I think that's what we should do. It shouldn't be in the hands of school board or district members or anything like that. Like my firing should have been with the principals, assistant principal, like all the admin, all the staff, and the students. Like, yeah, dude, get feedback, check in, see what it is.
Well, I think it needs to be more black and white too. Like, you know, like if it's a thing where you sign this, hey, you cannot drink alcohol. You cannot have videos of you drinking alcohol publicly. You cannot have videos of you smoking marijuana publicly. You cannot swear
Yeah,
in a video.
absolutely.
whatever rule they come up with. I'm not saying that should be the rule or shouldn't, but
Yeah.
it needs to be black and white, like, because like yours, it's like so, and that's the thing. Like I used to do, I started podcasting when I was still in education. I dabbled with stand up a little bit, and I was terrified of something being exposed and then me getting fired for it. But again, it's like the rules aren't really black and white, but you kind of know, like, okay, this is something where like they could use this to fire me.
That's the thing, and that's what I hate is unwritten rules. Like, I mean, I agree with you that if you're going to impose these like holier than thou sanctions, then you better be pretty damn clear as to what it is, because nowadays, especially, subjectivity matters. We're all on different algorithms. We live in different realities. What's professional to you is not professional to me. And like, there can't be these like vague, ambiguous words. It's you cannot film from the classroom or on school grounds under any circumstances at all. Right. Or you can't smoke. There can be no videos found of you taking any substance. And districts operate on different levels. So my home district in Louisiana is going to operate different than whenever I taught in the inner city in Kansas City. And they might have different black and white rules, but it needs to be like, this is what you can do. This is what you can't do. Even if that rule is you can't have social media, you better at least like make me sign that,
Right.
because
Exactly. Well, I
you
think,
just,
yeah. And then, but it also like, what if you did follow all the rules, but let's say you were, because I think this happened to a teacher that I worked with. I can't remember if they got fired or transferred, but there was a picture of them drinking, like, I think it was like a gallon of Kettle One or something. And somebody found the picture and then made like posters and put it up all over the school. But it's like they didn't post the picture. They didn't even take the picture. Somebody else took it and then ran with it. So like, are you just not allowed to drink then? I mean, it's like it's
yeah.
a mess.
And even then, it's like, dude, punish the kid who did that and then wear your consequences on your sleeve. I'm just rarely into the idea that you get to tell me how I should live when I'm the one suffering the consequences of it. And you didn't pay me enough to begin with. Like, and I'm not here to say that teachers should be able to act however they want, but I am here to say that there should be more grace given to teachers. And I think anybody in a job that is one, necessary, two, underpaid. Uh, and I think that like it's just crazy that you would try and say, that guy gets a picture blown up of him. A student makes a decision to make a prank, and then he would lose his job for that, or have to move his family, or have to change his profession because of a decision that he made, even if that picture was from yesterday. Like, I could care less. Like, I think it doesn't matter what kind of a school you're at or anything. Like, you're a teacher. Your job
Right.
is to educate. Your job is not to not drink. Your job is not to not party. Your job is to educate. And are the kids getting educated? Yes or no? Like, that's what I care about.
Exactly. It's interesting the things that we value. And this all goes not just with education, but also like politicians and I think entertainers and all these things. Like, are you good? Are you good at what you do? Because that's the thing that I don't think they value. It's better if you don't have any sort of social media or scandals or whatever, and you're just a subpar teacher, you can last 40, 50 years and be just terrible teacher as long as you show up every day on time. But if you just give a half-assed, 20% of your effort, I mean, you'll still be in the system until retirement. And those are so many of the teachers that I worked with that was so frustrating as a counselor. And parents would come and complain, and I'm like, there's nothing I can do. We can't get rid of this teacher, even though they're like, I know they're terrible. They're terrible. Administration knows they're terrible, but because they haven't had any scandals or whatever, and they're government employee, we can't fire them.
Yeah, because we all know what the school districts value. Like, I don't think anybody like shies away. Like, you can just look at the numbers. Like, anybody that works in admin, anybody that works at the district office, there is a thing that they value more than the students and more than the teachers. And it will always be. And again, there are a few that are probably exceptions to this. I had people that worked in district offices that I think really cared about what was happening at a very micro level. But I think when you get up in the clouds, your head gets big and your wallets get fat, and you start to go, okay, I'm actually like making money in education. And I think their biggest fear is that would stop, that they would get booted out of their position. And so anybody that poses any threat to that at all, what they prefer, I think, is silence. I think you could be a system teacher who gives 20% of bullshit work, comes in, clocks in, leaves, gives a pizza, not a pizza party, watches a movie, 3 days out of the week. You could do legitimately nothing and survive in education because you were quiet and because nobody was making the news about the teacher who doesn't care, because then everybody's going to go, well, why should she care or he care? Like, it's not a sexy story. There's nothing interesting about it. Your job is not at risk because a person is bad at their job, which is what sucks. It sucks that even if students aren't learning, that your job isn't at risk, because also it's
Right.
hard to prove how students are learning and all of that. But just like, it sucks that that can't be the qualification, and that instead it becomes this very political, how do we maintain our position and then do the same corporate ladder? How do we climb? How do we go from, executive manager to senior manager to associate directive manager to, these, random titles that you're just climbing to be like, yeah, I got more money and now I have more say over what people do. It's just like, you don't care about the students. Like
Exactly.
yeah, you can't. You're not allowed to.
It's like you said, the note in that video, one of the videos you posted about where you're addressing the school board, and you said the number one thing that you taught your students was to ask questions because you want them to be curious and not compliant. And that's what you were asking. You're like, okay, like, why are you telling me to take these videos down? I just want to know why. And it's like they don't like that. They don't like curiosity and questioning. They want everyone to just do, status quo, like you said, and just be silent. And it's sad.
Yeah, I mean, no corporation, no system likes when somebody is talking back or asking questions. Any corporation, I worked in, political organizations, uh, even as a server, if you're like, hey, why do we do it like this? And then they're like, shut up. And then you go, okay, but like, what about you
Right.
could get fired just for like that. It's a sad part of like the systems that we buy into as a whole, but it also is like indicative of where education is now, which is, becoming closer and closer to a for-profit machine. It's just people want to make money at the educational level, and with private schools and charter schools and everything else and all the money that you can make in the technology industry, like it's becoming that way. And it's been that way for a while, but I think people are finally seeing that, okay, this is here to stay.
I see, and I would almost disagree too, because I would say, like, if it was for profit, then things would make more sense. Because here's the thing: there's so many things that I saw, like we talk about these teachers that are terrible that make $80,000 a year because of the top of the pay scale. But there's also things. So I had a master's degree. I was a counselor. I got into counseling because I liked kids. I wanted to legitimately help kids. I wanted to counsel them, and they would have me half of my day at the last year that's when I finally said, fuck this, I'm out. They had me doing 3 lunch duty. I am a master's level counselor and I am babysitting kids at lunch. This is a complete waste of money. We could hire somebody for $12 an hour to babysit kids at lunch and they'd probably be better than me. I was terrible at trying to tell kids not to throw food and stuff. They don't listen to me in that regard. Now, if I'm counseling them one-on-one, I feel like I'm really good at that, but I'm not good at like saying, hey, knock it off. Like that doesn't work for me. So there's so many things like that. I mean, in administration, you talk about these people that are making the big bucks at the administration, go down to the administration building and see all these jobs that are the highest paid jobs and just look and see what they're doing. They're not doing shit. They're paper pushers. It's so vexing.
They're rubber stampers. They're interviewing me about how many times I farted on kids, but they're like, that's what they're concerned with. And I think it's, for profit doesn't have to make sense. It just has to make money. And the administrative level and the school board level continues to make money. They make more money every year than, like, all of the data shows that their salaries continue to grow, and they don't have to maintain good teachers because that doesn't pay their bills. It's like,
Yeah.
if they got more teachers or more, whatever, they're going to lose, that's less tax dollars that are going to go to them. And it's a sad situation because there's no real clear-cut answer that anybody wants to do. It would take, like, very radical change from how we view the education system, and I don't think there's anybody that actually cares. Like, I think you feel like, "Oh, I got out of the education system, and now, oh, my kids will deal with it. They'll be fine." And then we just keep letting generations slip and slip and slip, and we wonder,
Yeah.
"Hey, why does this suck now? Why are students in America really failing?" And it's like, well, we haven't really given a shit about any of their education. We've cared
Yeah,
about the
well, there's just so
politics.
much wasted money. I feel like my salary, like I said, the lunch duty, that is a waste. Then meanwhile, these kids are not getting the mental health counseling they need. And then half of that administration, half of the office staff, you walk into the offices, you're like, what is your job? Okay, I take all the files. Every time a kid registers, I get all these files and I put them into the computer. I'm like, why can't we just have that like a national database? When you're 5 years old, you sign up for school. Here's the birth certificate. It's in the computer. You can go to any school in the country. You don't have to enter this in every day. I mean, there's so many things like that where they could get rid of a lot of this administration and then use channel that money into the teachers and give bonuses and stuff. Like if you're a good teacher and your kids, tested at a third grade level at the first of the year and now they're working at a fifth grade level, you should get a bonus for that. I mean, you did your job. You took third grade level reading kids and brought them up to fifth grade. I mean, that's something that you did, I would think.
Well, and I think one of the problems with that is like then you get to teaching to these metrics and trying to like hijack the system.
That's true.
Like I feel like in general, there's enough money to go around. What I've witnessed in my life as an educator is when I taught in the inner city and I asked for resources, the answer was always absolutely not. We have no money here. And as soon as I went to the suburbs and I said, "Hey, can I get these resources?" They said, "Yeah. And what else do you want? Get as much as you want." Like there are uh the money is just not like distributed in a way that makes sense for everybody to get along. And so you have people feeling more and more burnout who are trying to leave. This cycle gets created where, people are more focused on making a living and raising a family than they are with the education process. And I think, there's money that's wasted for sure. The contracts that we give to people are insane. Like, I think the way that we do education is like fully backwards from how we should be doing education now. But when it comes to the money, it's like there's money to pay teachers. Like, I got a $10,000 pay raise when I moved out to the suburbs, and I got
Yeah,
to
but
do
that's
like
what I
less
mean. Like,
work, smaller classes, more
right,
resources. Like, my life got easier to get paid less. And it's like there's money there. It's just not going to places for
right. Like I
very
said, there's
specific
some of those
reasons.
teachers that are like 60 years old and they're absolutely garbage and they're making like 80 grand a year. And then you got this young teacher who's like 24 and she's a go-getter and she's staying after school and she's doing all this prep and she's working with the kids and the kids love her and she's getting the cheapest salary that they can give her. She's making like 30 grand a year. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, it's amazing what we've accepted and what we've said is fine, and, I imagine what we will continue to accept. It's why I was so confident not going back, is it just doesn't feel like anybody has an interest in, changing it, and maybe that's the best thing that could come from any of this stuff that's happened to me, is that I at least can, like, sit and talk about it now since I don't wanna go back to it
Right.
and at least be annoying. I mean, that was kind of my whole thing with the district is I was like, if you think I'm annoying now, just wait until like I'm not on your payroll. Then I'm going to be very frustrating. Like I will make videos, I will post content, I will continually joke about this system and your district. And so far I've managed to do that and I hope to continue. That's my main goal in this is that they would leave going, God, we really should have let that guy stay for another. All I wanted was to stay until May. That was it. I was like, just let me finish even till December. I was like, you could give me till December. I could like find out, what I was going to do. And once they were like, no, I was like, all right, let's see. I'll do whatever podcast, I'll do whatever video, whatever news segment we have to do just so I can kind of make fun of the situation.
Yeah, no, that's
And
great. I love it. Are you doing more? Is there other podcasts you're going to do or news segments? And I would think because this was a national story. Have you gotten other interview offers?
yeah, I've had like I did the Teacher Quit Talk podcast, which is like the biggest one in teacher content that I know of, besides like board teachers. Uh I got a couple like talk show things in New York that I don't know if they're actually going to do anything. The virality kind of goes away pretty quickly. Besides all the articles that you had, uh, the New York Post and Insider and all that, it's like I would say that where we're at now is like building my own content out. I did the this interview with the OnlyFans teacher on a sports radio show in St. Louis. It's like some big show out there. And just like talking with her, it was like we both had the same ideas, which were like, oh, there's plenty of ways to like capitalize on this and make it worthwhile and have fun doing it. And it sucks to like leave the kids. Like it sucks that this is how it's had to happen, but um, you know, pretty optimistic for the future.
No, absolutely. So the stand up is obviously bringing in some money. Now, we got to get your YouTube numbers up. So I'll try to help you with that. And then because
Yeah.
TikTok is kicking ass, you got 20,000. Does TikTok pay? Because YouTube is that's what's helped me a lot. Is like it actually pays money.
So I don't take cuts of TikTok because, there's conspiracy theories that if you do, they kind of bury you. And I really don't care about the money from TikTok. I would like to figure out YouTube and to start publishing different things. I've got different content ideas that I want to do. I just have to find the leverage to do it. Like the district took away my unemployment, which I think has really hurt my time to like be able to focus in on kind of
Yeah.
what I wanted to do. So, as soon as I get that figured out and it's about trying to prioritize, but there's some stuff that I want to do on YouTube for sure. I started doing YouTube shorts and those
I was
seem to
gonna
be doing
say,
well. Those do
you,
like pretty good
yes.
numbers pretty quickly. Like I was surprised at, I didn't have any subscribers on YouTube and just was making the post and they were doing relatively well. It's like a few
Yeah.
thousand here and there.
I was gonna say because if those TikToks you got 20,000, if you post you can just post the same videos as a YouTube short. That's what I do, and it's funny. Sometimes they blow up on TikTok and sometimes on YouTube. But if you just post them on both, I mean that should help bring up your YouTube numbers for sure.
Yeah, I've thought about doing it, and part of me is like, creatively, are you rehashing things? And I went, you're talking about fart jokes. Like, there's no creative. Just put it up on the internet, you big old doof.
Yeah, some people like TikTok and some people like YouTube, so I don't think it's gonna interfere.
Yeah, I wish I had done it like while it was happening. I wish I had thought to like go in and put it on YouTube Shorts, and I kind of post some on Instagram Reels, but yeah, there was part of me that was like hating it while it was happening. As I was just like, man, it's not funny. It's not like, I think my stand up is hilarious. Like, I think I'm a very good stand up comic. Uh, and I think TikTok, the videos you're making are like, how can I make the majority of people laugh at this topic, and how can I get the most amount of people to engage with this? And
Yeah,
that's never going to
because you're
be the
taking
funniest
right.
thing.
Yeah, you're taking your stand up, like you could be very proud of your entire set. And you're like, oh, that was a really good set. And now you've got to take like one joke from that set. And it's not really the same. It's like the same with a podcast. Like I do a podcast, I go, wow, that was a great interview. Okay, now I've got to take like a 20-second, 30-second clip from the podcast. It's not really the same thing.
Yeah, and it just feels, manufactured. And that's what it is. That's what people crave. That's what people want. It's
Right.
how do you be authentic while also manufacturing this thing, and how do you find the balance?
Yeah.
But,
And put the
you
sound
know,
effects and the music or the little like icons and stuff. You got to keep the ADD generation. So like every 5 seconds, you got to pop something up or whatever. It's a
and
game.
the thing that I hate the most about it and the thing that I like the most about stand up is uh in stand up, like I thrive on nuance and ambiguity and like, creating weird situations. But on TikTok there is no room for nuance or for ambiguity. Like you cannot, you need to say exactly what the joke is, exactly what the point you're trying to make is, and you've got to do it in 60 seconds. You could do it in 10 minutes, but if you're trying to keep the ADHD, it's how do you keep something funny into a minute? And it's like, it was tough, but I found out that I was good at it when I started doing it. And just to have the first 3 videos pop off and, go the way they did, I'm kind of just building up ideas, and then I'm going to try and record as many as I possibly can and get some content, generated for both. And we'll see. Hopefully I get those YouTube numbers up. That's I gotta start a podcast as well. I've got Riverside. I can do it. I could set it up.
Yeah. The thing for me that's helped, because I was just a school counselor. I was nobody, is just having the guests. And, some of those big name guests, like, because other people will search out those names and then they'll subscribe if you have a good clip or a good interview or whatever. So that, like you said, you've worked with some amazing comedians, DL Hughley and George Lopez and Theo Vaughn. Tell me about
Yeah.
Theo Vaughn.
I did a weekend with Theo. What was that? 2019. That was like right as he was really getting hot. Like the podcast was popping off. He was doing all the stuff with Rogan. He was like, he should have been doing theaters at that point, but he came and did our comedy club that I do stuff at. And so he did, a weekend there, did 5 shows with him. They were awesome. Crowd was great. And, yeah, had a good time.
So I just don't understand, like, because he's so funny, but I feel like, is it an act, or is that just kind of how he is? Because he almost plays like this kind of dumb guy, but I'm like, I don't think he's dumb in real life. I feel like this is kind of an act.
Yeah, at that point I was hosting. We didn't like hang out a ton. Like we didn't interact. It seemed like, you know, I would say that how he is on a podcast is probably how he is with his friends. And I doubt that's how he is when he looks in the mirror, but I would say that's probably most of us. So, I think I think that was like the vibe I got from him is just kind of goofy and, uh, you know, give you some weird phrase, turn a phrase. You're like, what are you talking about? Just kind of off the wall, sometimes absurd, Southern absurdity. That's what I'm going to start calling Theo Vaughn. That's like, he's just kind of, off the walls. But yeah, I think that was him for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's very funny. I think you're going to get to that level too. Tell me about. I want to ask you about this too, because it's like your Instagram handle is formerly Fat Steven, and you talk about this in your stand up about how you used to be 350 pounds and you were called Fat Steven, and then you lost the weight. So explain to me, like, what prompted the weight loss? How did you do it? And I mean, it seems like you're still keeping it off. How are you keeping it off?
I'm wearing better clothing, which is making it seem like I'm keeping it off. That's probably the biggest piece of advice I'd give to anybody looking to lose weight is just find better clothes. I used to work in politics, so I was like, and I was walking door to door, and my job was to find volunteers to do it, but I was very bad at my job, so I would just hit the numbers of doors that I was supposed to get volunteers to hit. And so I was walking for like 6 to 8 hours a day in the Louisiana summer, from July until November, and was keto during that time. So I wasn't eating bread and eating a lot of Zaxby salads. And yeah, just did keto and walked a lot, and it kind of shed off pretty quickly. I don't think it's like very healthy to do. I think everything I've learned since I've done it is like keto is actually a terrible diet to live. So I think it's like all right for if you're trying to quickly lose weight. But yeah, I'm pretty glad I was able to get off of it. I hate that I'm losing or that I'm gaining all the weight back, but it makes for a funny bit. It makes people laugh whenever I say that I used to be Fat Steven, and they're like, we can see you.
How much? Because you lost 100. Was that 150 or 100 pounds?
100 pounds.
Oh wow, dang!
So I probably gained like 30 back, and then it fluctuates in there. But
So you say keto's not a good diet. So what is a good diet then? What do you think is better?
something I would never do. I think like uh, uh, most of the stuff that I've like seen about, read about, I would say the best thing you can do if you're actually trying to lose weight is just count calories and work out and don't eat processed foods. Like just try to eat like non-processed foods. Yeah, anything that comes in a little snack pack, just probably try to avoid it and make your own. But the diet or lifestyle I've seen that really does seem to work is plant-based, is if you go fully plant-based. My dad is fully plant-based, doesn't give a shit about the animals. I've never seen a person less interested in animal cruelty. He doesn't care at all. He's like, I don't, whatever you do to the cows, I don't care. But he just thinks that it's like the healthy way to live. And the more that I look into it and the more that I research it, the more that I tend to agree. And I've seen it in his life. He's, gotten fit, but his blood work is like really night and day difference from where it was. So
Interesting. Yeah. Cause like I see, I've tried that. I've done like the whole, I don't know if you heard of the Whole 30, but I actually had that girl on my podcast. She wrote that book and it's like that one's kind of keto in a way, but it's like almost stricter because you don't do dairy. But that's really good. But I tried vegan and like we actually like I gained weight on vegan. And
I
so
so I
I
don't
don't know.
I don't it's not vegan. It's
Vegetarian?
like it's just plant-based. It's like
Okay.
you are defaulting like they didn't even rule out meat. Like they would have
Oh,
meat sometimes, but like it's like their lifestyle was for the most part they're eating uh leaves, dude, carrots and
okay.
beans maybe, like
Yeah.
not a lot of rice, I don't think. I don't know. It just seems like if you're eating a lot of vegetables, that was kind of the mindset I
For
got was
sure.
like you should be eating like 90% vegetables or fruits and then everything else whatever you got is good. I'll never live by that. I love making little turkey bowls and chicken bowls and
Yeah.
whatever
Well,
else I got, but
because there's also people that go the other way. What is it called? The carnivore, and it's they just eat meat, and they get healthy too. So I think it's finding what works for you. Like for me, vegan didn't work, but for other people, vegan is amazing. And then like yeah, there's plant based vegetarian, and there's Whole 30 and keto, and
I
there's all
can't
sorts.
imagine that just eating meat is good for your heart. There's no
I don't.
I
I'm
could
telling
not
you, man. There's
imagine.
it's supposedly yeah. There's all this stuff like people have done it, and they've. I was listening to this interview today, and they were talking about though. I think the big portion of that is that when you do carnivore diet and you just eat meat, you're avoiding all these other things, like you said, the processed food that's causing all these other issues. So all these other like these autoimmune problems and all this stuff, they go away when you go on the carnivore diet, but some of that could just be that you're avoiding a lot of the processed food. I think the processed food and the white flour stuff that is the worst for you, even more so than like red meat.
Yeah, and I think like my gut instinct would be to say like if 90% of the nutrients that you're getting are protein, that something's got to be breaking down somewhere. There's got to be like some heinous thing that's happening in your I don't know how organs work, but I would imagine maybe that's where your spleen comes into play. I've never seen what the spleen's used for, but I could imagine that it's for protein digestion, but there's got to your kidneys got to be into failure.
Yeah.
Good lord, just the idea of like only eating meat seems so insanely hard to me. I did keto and that seems like impossible thinking to
That is
just eat.
tough, keto, doing full keto. Yeah, I don't know. Well, we're two people who aren't doctors, so don't take any of our advice. But I mean, yeah, I
You
think
should take my advice. Whoever's listening here, you should take my advice. I'm absolutely an expert in this. I lost 100 pounds because I sold my soul for a political party. And
well, the walking is definitely, I mean, that is something you could advise people for sure. Walking 6 hours a day. Yeah, that'll help you lose weight.
if you got the time,
Yeah.
find a job that helps you lose weight. When I was teaching over the summers, I did irrigation because I would gain 30 pounds during the school year. And then I would lose like 15 to 20 whenever I would do irrigation because you're just working, digging, shoveling, 6 to 8 hours a day in the summer sun. It's It's the way they probably don't have irrigation out in Phoenix. They don't allow you to have extra water. I imagine they need it to.
We have irrigation. We have the canals that they bring the water in from Colorado, and they have these big canals everywhere. I don't know. I'm assuming I don't know if they're still working on them. I'm assuming they're done. But I know my friend, when he first moved out here, we both moved from Seattle, and he was a roofer in Phoenix, which I cannot think of a worse job to do.
That sounds terrible.
Is to be on top of a roof with no shade. But he got in really good shape. So
probably got really tan too.
Yes, I think he did. So sorry. Yeah, I'll let you get to your next thing that you got going on here. Is there anything else you want to promote? I'm definitely here to help in any way. If you want to come back and promote something.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate it. Follow me at formerly Fat Steven. If you go to my website, sign up to be on my email list. That's probably the biggest way. If you know a comedy club, holler at them. Check out the Unteachables. We go on tour during Christmas break, spring break, summer break, because they're still teachers, even though I'm not. That's the Unteachables, formerly Fat Steven. They have not yet. They're holding on.
Do they have acronyms or the aliases where they use different names or something?
No, they have taken my advice. They do not post from the classroom. So they keep their stand-up public, and they're from. I mean, Lou's got 100,000 followers on both. He's like popping off. So
all right,
yeah, come follow us there.
Come to Phoenix. I'll come see you.
We're working on it. They're out of Denver, so we'll make our way over.
Amazing, cool, very very cool to see you, and thank you so much for everything you've been doing. And yeah, again, let me know if I can help. If I can help promote anything, I'll share this episode out and hopefully get you a couple new subscribers.
Well, thanks, dude. I appreciate it. Great hangs, and I'm sure I'll holler back at you.
All right, see you later, Steven.
All right, peace.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to the full podcast episode. Please help support our guests by following them on social media and purchasing their products, whether it be a book, album, film, or other thing. And if you have a few extra dollars, please consider donating it to their favorite charity. If you want to support the show, you can like, share, and comment on this episode on social media and YouTube. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can give us a rating or review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts. Finally, make sure you're subscribed to the show on YouTube for the video versions and other exclusive content. We appreciate your support. Have a great rest of your day, and shoot for the moon.